So, on to Princess and the American ships, the American way. Very different, a lot more different nationalities to cope with. Whereas I've got a British audience on P&O, so I was quite used to the requests. Going over to the American ships, which is what I did in 2009, got my first Princess contract. So the music being asked for from the Americans and other people became so diverse that I began to understand that the music between British people and American people, obviously the charts differ, and I found that the requests that were coming in, I haven't got a clue what they're asking me for. I'm thinking, what's that? And of course, I say, I'm sorry, I don't have that. A lot of the time, they were quite pleasant about it, and they were okay, and they were accepting of it. And then towards Christmas on the Caribbean cruises, they were all a little bit annoyed, and Americans. And I don't know if you've had this problem, Dad or Glenn, when you've been dealing with them. They don't like to be told no, do they?
No.
So when they asked me for a song and I said, I'm sorry, I don't have that. Well, of course, that's not good enough. And I need to provide an alternative. But I wasn't able to if I didn't know the song. Well, you know, what kind of style is that? And of course, in America, they have different style types, genres to what we do in England. So that became a challenge. And I felt like I was learning about music all again for the first time. So I was so used to knowing and predicting what the British would like, whereas the Americans, it was just completely all over the place. So I lost touch with it all. So how really how do we get from, you know, working on a ship and as an entertainment officer and DJ to becoming an author? Is when I went back to sea in 2010 in December. A good friend of mine that I met through networking said to me, I was at a point where I was not quite sure of what was happening, and she said, just document your journey, just document your journey. So I went, from the minute I left home, and I remember when we left home, Dad, do you remember the snow?
Yes, I do.
I weren't sure we were even going to get to the ship.
No,
like, oh my goodness. So we were panicking. To be fair, my fault, I'd not planned in time, thinking, well, my train's leaving at 5 o'clock or something daft, and of course we ended up leaving it a bit late. But by the skin of my teeth, we got there within a minute and the train set off. My goodness, I didn't think I was going to make it. So glad I did. And when I got there, lots of changes, because each ship, and it had only been, I think it had been a year and a half between the last Princess contract to the December 2010 when I went away again. And there'd been so many changes. So what you imagine, what you remember from before in terms of the procedures and the operations of how it works together had all changed by the time I got back. And I was in a different, I went from deck 4 to deck 7. I thought, oh, this is really cool. And they said that this is the way that they were doing now for guest and DJs. I thought, brilliant, okay, that's cool. And so I was quite lucky. I got a nice double bed. Well, that was just wonderful, because every contract after that, I got a single bed again, back down on deck 4. And I thought, oh, okay, again, this is part of ships, and what you believe to be true when you go one time to the next time, it's all changed. So it's a mindset that you on land don't have, because pretty much you turn up to work and it's like you left it yesterday, but it's not quite like that. So I had to get used to that transition. When I'd been told to document my journey, I started writing on my iPhone, because it was a tool that I carried around with me the whole time. And what was interesting is that within, I think there was a natural flow about the writing, and I think it was the first week, I thought, I'd actually was reading through it after I'd written for days, every day. And then I just sat having a free time, and I wrote and I read through it, and I thought, this is really exciting. Is this really me? So much was happening in a day that it was hard to kind of document it all down. I was meeting this person, I was meeting this person, then I was going, and then that just happened. It's like, and it very much, and when obviously on land, you don't get that many changes in a short space of time. So you have a lot of time to digest what's happening on land. On the ship, it's very different, because you get sometimes seconds, even minutes, to make a decision because of the changes. So you come away from work believing, right, I'm going to be starting at this time, I'm going to be working in this venue. And then by the time you wake up, there's a message telling you, right, I need you in this outfit, I need you in this venue at this time within a few hours. So it's just change, constant change. But I like the constant change. So what I was going to do is I was going to share with you some of the writing. This would be about a typical day, but it's about half a day. So I wouldn't dream of reading you the whole day, because that would take forever. Okay. So I thought I'd just start off, and this was actually Dad's birthday last year, so this was the 14th of January, and I've just written here, before I left home 6 weeks ago, my intention was to write a journal of my cruising journey, because that's what I was planning on doing. Within the first week, I'd written 10 pages. And when I read it, it excited me, because so much is happening on the ship every minute of every day. 6 weeks in, and I'm up to 70 pages so far. 6 weeks. And I still have another 6 weeks to go. On the ship, I'm constantly faced with new challenges in this role and way of life. But I'm just making the best of it. I'm gaining so many insights about myself, my life and the world, not to mention lots of amazing moments that I'm much happier on the ship than at home. I feel creative around people and full of ideas, although do not want to go off on a tangent without thinking it through. I'm experiencing so many different types of experiences that I'm just so inspired to create something that raises awareness of a particular problem and actually solves it at the same time. Whilst I'm learning how to be an author as I go along, and yet to find the right level of help, amazingly I have 3 titles with concepts. A little content, but more importantly, a list of people who are genuinely interested in buying. Finding my direction has been the biggest challenge of all, and following my heart and gut have helped me the most. I just feel more alive than I ever have. The synchronicity that I'm experiencing has been incredible. I get to an elevator and it's waiting for me. I've been thinking about, somebody that I've been thinking about for the day suddenly appears. I think, oh. And processing it just becomes a bit, wow, it's like, okay. But this was every 10 minutes, every hour, something was happening. Or a random conversation, it sheds so much light on something that's been going through my mind. One way or another, it all helps me to get where I really want to be. I have so much time on my hands that I'm only working about 4 hours a day. How many people work 4 hours a day? Who would like to work 4 hours a day? So I spend the day exactly as I choose. Everywhere I go, I observe and listen to people arguing about the pettiest of things, and I can't believe how disrespectful and hurtful people can be. Also, they seem to be unaware of all the beauty that surrounds them, and it can be painful to watch how they speak to their significant others, yet I'm drawn to doing something about it. There just doesn't seem to be enough support for the crew. No one seems to care about what's really important to them. They walk around with their heads down. In fact, one of the parts on the ship, I don't know if I've explained this to anybody, the longest part of the ship, down on deck 4 where all the crew get from one place to another, is called the M1, surprisingly enough. And when I'm walking down, any time I'm down on the M1, people are just, you know, they're just, and it's sad, it's really sad to watch because they're just not happy. And so for some people, it feels like a prison sentence. And that's the truth of it. When all they need is someone to believe in them and encourage them to follow their heart's desires. I would love to be that person. I love to lift their spirits and let them know I believe in them and try to support them in any which way I can. And they just seem to be incredibly grateful that somebody actually cares. I choose to be proactive and productive with my time and have at times wondered if I'm being proactive enough. But that's because no one's really pushing me to where I want to be. But for now, I'm exploring what really matters so that I can create a way of life that is right for me and something that I can be proud of. I aim to get back on track financially before I start spending again, and I've worked out that I could be out of debt completely by December. Actually, it became April. That would be so cool. I don't want to make a quick buck, instead secure work outside of DJing and be recognised for my ability to touch others' lives through connecting, engaging and inspiring others. That's what I wrote on the 14th of January, and that just hopefully might give you some sort of an insight as to where I was and what I was kind of going through at the time. And I just went round, walking around the ships, just what can I do for these people? How can I help them? And I came up with the concept that where the crew members, each time I went for an induction on the early ships and certainly when I joined the first ship, it was a case of seeing all these crew members it was the same thing every time I went to a ship, and it was a rabbit in the headlights. And I decided that it's got to stop. I need to do something. If only they had the information beforehand, because when you go for an interview, you'll get bombarded with so much information as you do when you board a ship, but you don't necessarily always get the up-to-date information or information that really can give them feel more secure within the roles. And it's not just a new job, it's a new home. Find out, where are you working today? Where is your cabin? Okay, what are my duties? And you're learning it all on the same day, so You just can't think. So I wanted to provide something that would share what had happened to other people. So I badgered just about anybody that I could find and said, would you be interested in helping me with this project? And what surprised me more than anything is that people were happy to do it. It wasn't an effort to get people involved, they just wanted to just do it and help me out. And they saw, like I did, that they actually needed it. And once I checked all that, I checked a fee in terms of what they would expect to pay. And I think originally I was thinking it'd be about £5, but I decided that'd be a bit too cheap. And so I managed to get a lot of people on board with the project. And I think by the time I came home in August last year, I'd got about 140 people involved. But of course, putting 140 people's stories in is going to be a bit time consuming, to say the least. And really, 140 people, is that just a bit excessive? Yes, it was. So I decided to narrow it down a bit, and I managed to narrow down the 20, plus the people, everybody working on ships at different times were not always contactable. So I tend to pick the people that were staying around and were available when I was ringing, when I could contact them, so they could get back in touch and do a questionnaire. And the questionnaires really started off as a paper version in December 2010. What was interesting is that I think what secured it for me in terms of it being viable was not only had the crew on board said that they'd be happy to buy it. I met a guy called Tyler in Fort Lauderdale when we docked on the cruise when I actually went back to sea in December 2010. I was having humongous problems spending on my credit card. How many times have you been away and not been able to buy something? As your credit card, it's not going to allow you to buy. Does anybody else have that problem, or is it just me? So I'd been to several islands, tried to buy, I wanted to buy a CD here, or I wanted to buy this, and 3 times it had not allowed me to do this transaction. And I start to think, okay, am I not meant to have them CDs? Is it not buying it? What's the explanation? And it wasn't until we got to Fort Lauderdale that I decided that I need to spend on my card. I've come away, and we're only 10 days into the trip. So fortunately, I was doing some other things, and I was just walking along, and I was exploring Fort Lauderdale every time that I went round it. And every time I went round, I got to know a bit more, and I knew where to go. It became like a bit of a Parkgate thing, Fort Lauderdale, because everything was like in reaching distance. I go around that corner, I get to that shop, and I go around there next. So I knew where I was going then. But on this particular day, I'd spotted this Travelex store, and I'm not sure how I could. Has anybody seen for our travellers in the room, how would you sum up the Travelex store? Like a money
exchange.
Money exchange. Okay, thank you, Dad. So I went in, not necessarily believing that they would solve my problem, but I just figured I need to sort this problem out. Let's speak to people who deal with money. That'd be a good start. And I did. I went in, and that was my intention. As it turned out, they helped me solve the problem. I got to the bottom of why I couldn't spend on the card, because I learned that Princess, nice as they are, like to deduct £100 from your card as soon as you get on the ship, in case you buy anything on the ship. Right, thanks for telling me. Okay, if I'd have known that, I could have. I bought one of these in the co-op. They do a card that you can prepay dollars on top, or euro one, and so I'd got it. I thought I'd got it all sorted, and I got this card with the something like $110 on it, and of course they'd taken $100 out of my account, so I had no money to spend on it. So that's why it was rejected.